Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo. Happy Monday to you guys. I figured we'd start the week off with a good old-fashioned Titanfall 2 live commentary. I was actually thinking quite a bit about Titanfall 2 last night as I lied awake in bed, unable to sleep because of the mysteries of the universe haunting me. Not really, but I was definitely thinking a little bit about Titanfall 2. And, you know, there's still quite a few of us playing it. Early in the morning, when I typically record live commentaries, only about 3,000 people. It's a little bit rough to get a match here on Xbox and pretty much impossible on PC. But in the afternoon, there's still a good chunk of people playing the game. And I was really asking myself, not only why is anyone still playing this game? You know, what is it about Titanfall 2 that is still bringing some of us back every now and then? So there's a question for you guys as we get this week rocketed and rolling. But more importantly for me as an individual, I wanted to know why that guy with the cloak killed me. No, I think I know the answer to that. I just wasn't quick enough. No, I wanted to know what it is about Titanfall 2 that I actually find so satisfying. I think a lot of people right off the get-go just say the game feels amazing, right? And I won't disagree with that at all, but it's a pretty heavy blanket statement, right? So I wanted to think a little bit further and say to myself, no, what is it exactly? I mean, what element of Titanfall 2 sort of brings the whole thing together to make that game feel that we all seem to find so satisfying? You know, what is it for me on a personal level especially? By the way, guys, we're getting some Volt goodness going on in here because save the Volt. That's all I can say. So when I really started to boil things down around the concept of game feel, the first thing that I knew pretty much right from the get-go was that gunplay for me in Titanfall 2, while it's good, it's satisfying, it's by no means bad, it's by no means average. I'd say it's definitely above average. It's that same sort of old school Infinity Ward feel to it, right? It's the one area of the game that you guys have definitely heard me criticize in the past. It's the one area that I think could be a little bit more juiced up than it is. It's the one area in which I wanted Respawn to take a little bit of a risk and show us that while this game does share a lot of similarities with the Call of Duty franchise, a franchise that, of course, they created, many of them working at Respawn now, that we could do something different with, like, weapon recoil and weapon handling and you know, try and experiment with something that maybe had a little bit higher of a skill floor, that had a bit more of a learning curve to it, if you will. I always wanted to see what Titanfall would be like with that. I think a big part of it was the extended time to kill that they test, which unfortunately they never implemented, even though I think it was a majority vote from the community who actually liked it, but they managed to stay with the original. Regardless of that, that was one piece of the puzzle for what... Wow, that was an interesting melee. For what I thought they could have done to improve the gunplay, the actual firefights, right? To make them a bigger part of the experience. That all put aside, though, the one thing that the movement system then does within Titanfall 2 is it enhances the game's gunplay. So I think that's why, even with my criticisms, the game always feels so damn good. It's just because of that movement system, the mobility, all the parkour elements, that gives the gunplay an extra layer that you simply don't see in other first-person shooters. You know, there's really not much else out on the market that does what Titanfall 2 does. And it's funny, because going way back to the original game, Titanfall has always sort of been a dream experience for me, if you will. When we first started seeing parkour in video games, you know, when certain games started adding things like mantles and wall climb, and then Mirror's Edge came around, Mirror's Edge was like, oh, we're gonna go all in with this first-person parkour system and have all of the same sort of things you might see in free running and stuff like that. You know, we're gonna run with that. I just remember having vivid fantasies of like, dude, can you imagine a first-person shooter where they have some serious like Mirror's Edge parkour elements in it, and then boop, out of nowhere, Titanfall appears, right? And you're like, oh crap, this is a game I always wanted, man. Someone's making it. And it was fantastic. And I think what Titanfall 2, all Respawn did was just up the ante for their movement system. I know a lot of veterans for TF1 fall in line with the whole idea that slide hopping has been made too easy and it was more skill-based in the past, but I think it's just right in Titanfall 2. In fact, I think Titanfall 1's bunny hopping was too timing-based. It was just unnecessarily difficult. The curve behind it was steeper than it needed to be for the end result. And again, I know that so many people look at that and they're like, but dude, that's what made it so good, and that's what makes strafe jumping so good in Quake, and I won't deny those things, but I think what Respawn did was actually find a really wonderful middle ground. Whether it was intentional or not, if it was just a a side effect of the way they modified their systems, the way they implemented their new slide mechanic. I really don't care. I just think it's way better the way it is now, and I think it provides a more accessible, yet still difficult, and still skill-based movement system, one that I thoroughly enjoy, and one that I think feels much better than the bunny hopping. Just the animation set that we get behind slide hopping, you know, the way it feels like your character is alive and moving through it, it's just a really rewarding and satisfying experience. So, you know, I think Titanfall 2 is the epitome of what you can do with a really badass movement system in a first-person shooter. And that's one thing that I would, you know, regardless of how successful or unsuccessful Titanfall 2 has been, I think that is something that hopefully other developers look at, and hopefully Respawn continues to look at as a true accomplishment. You know, something that they really did an amazing job with, and something that deserves praise, high praise in my opinion. In fact, I don't think there's enough being said about the movement system in Titanfall 2, and just how well designed it is, and just how accessible it really is by comparison to other games with similar movement systems. That's a big step forward. You know, again, accessibility gets tossed around as a dirty word from time to time, but if there's one thing that the original Respawn team did at an Infinity Ward, it was take a first-person shooter genre and make it mainstream and make it accessible while still making it enjoyable. And I think that's something that's been done with Titanfall 2 in a lot of different environments. It may not all have been executed perfectly. The end result may not have been perfect, but I think much of what was crafted with Titanfall 2 was good for the franchise, good for the genre in a lot of ways, and hopefully good for Respawn and to as a learning experience is what I should say, for what they can do with the next game, Titanfall 3, whatever else they produce in the same genre, that type thing. So for me, guys, it really is just about that base movement system. You know, that really is a force multiplier for the enjoyment factor in Titanfall 2 for me, and I think a lot of people will agree. So there you have it. Man, I thought about that long and hard last night, no pun intended, and was just like, you know, this is something I really want to talk about, especially because I want to hear what a lot of you guys have to say. You know, we've talked about this in the past, but I think on a very, like, simplified layer. You know, we've just all kind of said, oh, the movement system, of course, but why? You know, how does the movement system affect other portions of the game for you? You know, and we haven't even gotten into the talk about Titans. Obviously, I think the thing with Titans is that what Respawn did with Titans in the original Titanfall 2 is intact here. You know, we've just seen a change to the way the Titans themselves work. And again, I think it's one of those things that has its goods and bads, you know, has its ups and downs. And that's very much me in general when I look at the Titanfall 2 experience. It's by no means like the flawless, perfect game. It's one of my favorite games, I think, because it has so many flaws, and those flaws in a lot of ways demonstrate the risks that Respawn took to try and find new ground. You know, I don't necessarily think that the end result we got with the Titans is 100% on point. I don't think it's the best version of the Titans that we could have gotten, but I think it was a great experiment, and I think it probably gave them a lot of answers for what they could do going forward. In fact, honestly, when we look at the system that they ended up using for the Titans in this game, I really do like the class-based, sort of character-based Titans. I always agreed that that could be a cool decision going forward. I think the only issue has always been the limitation of the number of those Titans we have. I should say the limited number of those Titans that we have. I think had the game been able to launch with a bigger roster of Titans, with more variety and, you know, more definition and more diversity amongst the Titans themselves, maybe even more defined roles. I know that's something that a lot of people don't like, the idea of the game going more of a hero shooter route where certain Titans complement other Titans, but honestly, that's something I still would like to see happen in Titanfall, just for the sake of seeing what the outcome could be. You know, we got a small taste of that with the Monarch and everything that happened with, like, you know, the healing and the shield abilities. To me, the idea of really class-based, you know, Titans that really have a purpose on the battlefield, like one that resupplies and one that drops health. I know that sounds old school and traditional, but when you think about the way the Titans function and the way they complement the pilot gameplay, I think that old idea, that ancient class-based system, can be given new life with inside of Titanfall, and that could be something quite special. So Titanfall 2 is a special game for a lot of us, for a lot of different reasons, and I hope that despite the way the game has sold for Respawn, it was a special game for them to work on and one that they learned a lot from. It definitely seems that way when we see members of the development team talk about the game and, things they've learned and risks they've taken. And Titanfall is one of those games that I'd love to see Danny O'Dwyer cover for his no-clip coverage. I'd love to see him go to Respawn and really get the full behind-the-scene details for how many of the systems within Titanfall 2 came to be, why they made the decisions they made, and, what's their thoughts in process going forward for the franchise. Man, Danny. I gotta go hit him up now. We should all go hit him up. Everybody go yell at Danny O'Dwyer on Twitter and tell him his next no-clip documentary should be on Respawn and the Titanfall franchise, because damn, do I want to know more about this game and how it came to fruition and where Respawn wants to go next. So, guys, feel free to share all of your personal thoughts on everything we talked about today down in the comment section below. Probably one of my favorite commentaries I've done in a very long time for this game, and that was a great little double kill to finish things off. Can we juke and jive, get the spicy boys down, and see if we can't wrap this up with some solid gameplay? Look at the spicy boy. Go do your thing, my little friend. Go do your thing. I love you so much, spicy boy. Oh, guys, Titanfall. It's been a hell of a ride, and it's fun to know that it's not over yet. We're supposed to be getting a bit of an FNN in the coming days, sometime early October. So I'm looking forward to that, to seeing what the maybe some of the final pieces of the puzzle are for Respawn. I'd love if my Titan crushed that guy. Move over just a little bit more. Oh, we didn't get it. So hopefully I'll be coming to you guys in a couple days with news from the frontier. Until then, feel free to share all of your thoughts on what detailed elements of the Titanfall 2 experience make the game special for you, even moving into the 1-year mark. Let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, remember to play smart, remember to play to challenge yourself, but most importantly, remember to play for fun.